Stupid puzzle box won't open. I'll try again later. Hey everyone! Minnie Hanu here. I'm so excited to show you this next doll because I really needed a buddy to go trick-or-treating with me this year. What could possibly go wrong? Let's get started. Halloween is my favorite holiday. The candy, the merriment, and there are so many Halloween icons out there to draw inspiration from. For my first Halloween doll on this channel, I had to go with Sam from the movie Trick or Treat. Sam, or Samhain, is the spirit of Halloween disguised as a trick-or-treater, who acts as guardian over the events of the movie and enforcer of the laws of Halloween. The design seems relatively simple at first glance, but will I make it easy on myself and just create the onesie and mask? Of course not. I started with this doll I found at Five Below. It's about a Barbie toddler size, and it came with a bike and articulated body. In order to make the head easier to sculpt on, I filled it with hot glue to stiffen the surface. I didn't end up using the original body that the doll came on. I got this multi-pack of little toddler-like bodies from Amazon, and it's a little bit pudgier, so I thought it would fill out the onesie a little bit better. In order to determine where I would need to add or remove volume to the face, I mapped it out with a little bit of paint so I would know where to cut and where to add. And for the initial sculpting, I just use hot glue because it's cheap and it's quick, and when it comes to crafting, I am very impatient. I used Milliput to do the cosmetic sculpting after the volume had been added to the face. And for Sam's eyes, I used 2 black pins just so I could eventually sculpt eyelids around it. And his little face is supposed to resemble a pumpkin, a jack-o'-lantern made flesh. So I tried to get as accurate to the images of him that I could find on the internet, but I'm not the best sculptor. He came out okay. And yes, this is the ugly stage before he gets better, but I promise he does get better. He doesn't look exactly like he does in the movie, but I did my best to try and get the point across and get his face as accurate as I could. My dad always asks why I bother sculpting underneath onto the body or on the face if it's just going to be covered up with a mask, and it's a fair question. I just feel like the character wouldn't be complete without the skin and the sculpting underneath it. I feel like in that sense it's a nice challenge for myself, and at the same time I just like it being a complete character. I like going all out for it because it's fun. With my extra Milliput that I had combined, I decided to get a little sculpting out of the way for my next doll, which will be my second Halloween doll in this little Halloweeny series. The outfit was fairly simple to make. I drafted a pattern from tracing out the outline of the body, and I used this orange fleece that I got 3 yards too many of. I really only needed this little square of it. And I used these cheesecloth bags initially because I thought they had a nice texture that I could use for a kind of burlap on a doll scale. I didn't end up using them in the end. I used a nice cotton that was solid and wasn't see-through in the end. Once I sewed up the onesie and got his bag ready, I decided it was time to weather. And that's just using acrylic paints watered down and using test pieces first in order to determine how much or how little pigment I needed in the weathering paint. And once I got it to a consistency that I liked, I dunked everything in multiple times if I wanted it a little bit darker, because we need it to be nice and grungy, because Sam's probably been wearing this for millennia, ever since trick-or-treating got started, so it needs to be nice and weathered and worn. Ugh, I love that staining, it's perfect. It's always fun to make grungy clothes for characters because you don't have to be neat, you can be as messy as you want. And it always comes out looking well used and like it's been worn. I worked on his mask a little off camera because I was feeling sick that day and was mainly just sitting on the floor in front of the TV watching Jane the Virgin while I sewed. I did some work off camera, and the rest I did by hand, as you can see here. I'm just sewing darts in to get the curvature of the mask to lay correctly on his head in the way that I want it to. It's not exact as per the movie's design, but I tried to get it as nice fitting as I could for the doll. For his buttons, I didn't have any buttons the size that I needed, so I made some out of hole-punched black paper, and I stacked them together and glued them with a glue stick. With his kind permission, he let me sew them onto his mask after he took it off, of course. And this is how the mask looks before I sew the mouth, but with the eyes and the closure in the back. And it's just going to be tied around his neck anyway, so I don't think that any closures were needed for it. I sewed his mouth off camera, it's just this little zigzag. And after that, I weathered it, put it in the same paint mixture as the onesie in the bag. And it turned out like this. To unify all the colors and to make him that great grungy pumpkin orange, I covered his body and his face so that it could all be one uniform color. And I used several different mixtures of oranges, browns. I used washes and dry brushing primarily. And that's the lazy woman's painting, is using washes and dry brushing. And that is my favorite way to do any kind of painting. A hairdryer really helps if you want to speed up the process as well. I didn't end up filming all of his face up because I was concentrating really hard on it and I was distracted looking at photos of him off camera. And I was just trying to get his face to look decent. So I did that off camera. I love his black eyes. They're just so big and cute. And he's just the cutest little Halloween critter ever. And again, he doesn't look exactly like he does in the movie, but I got him close enough that I'm happy. I'm really happy with how he'll look underneath his mask, even if nobody ever sees him again. And he has these little stitches going over the cuts on his eyes and over his mouth. I think it gives him an extra creepy little touch, and that was fun. I just used Elmer's glue all and some twine to look like the twine that he uses to tie his mask as well. Just keeps the design cohesive all around. Elmer's glue all is the best glue to use on dolls' faces because it dries clear and it hopefully won't show up on the final doll. But I'm very happy with his face. He's super cute. And here he is in the onesie. I end up gluing his little feet cup things down to his feet. I'm very happy with how he came out. He's adorable. Unfortunately, the lollipops I completely forgot about because they were actually the first part of this project that I worked on. I didn't end up including them in my final photo shoot, so I apologize for that, but I wanted to show you how I made them and the two methods that I used for creating them. It's another example of there are multiple different ways to approach a problem or approach a project. And the first one I used was recycled plastic and covering it with UV resin, then painting it over with some transparent orange ink. And that gave it a nice lollipop feel. It's nice and shiny. And then the second technique I used, which is cheaper, and if you don't have access to UV resin, this is the way to go. So I just poured some hot glue on my little silicone mat. Then I flattened it with the opposite side and just squished it down until it was relatively flat and even. And you can see my nails that my beautiful best friend painted on me. They were immediately destroyed after several days of crafting, but they look beautiful right now. So after the glue is dried, you peel it off. And then you cut out a circle. And then that will be the lollipop. And then you just hot glue it to the stick, paint it the same way as the resin one. And I glossed both of them over with some gloss varnish after I painted the little jack-o'-lantern faces on them so that they would be nice and shiny. And again, I'm sorry that I don't include them in the photo shoot, but I wanted to show you guys that I did actually make them. I realize it's a little hard to see with the reflection on the lollipop. It's the curse of having something glossy on camera. I hope all of you enjoyed this process, and I hope you enjoyed the final photo shoot. Happy early Halloween! Happy October, everyone! I'll see you next time.